It's the end of our stay here in Moldova. Today we are up bright and early. I'm pretty exhausted. It's 6 a.m. Heading to the airport as a group, jumping on a prop plane and flying about a little over an hour to Romania. And we're going to land in Bucharest and do the same kind of thing that we're doing here, just in Bucharest.
After spending about 3 days in Moldova as a class, we packed up our things, headed to the airport, and jumped on one of the smallest propeller planes. I do have to say, it's kind of a cool feeling filling up an entire airplane with people you know. After arriving in Romania, we jumped on a tour bus and had a guided tour of Bucharest that was definitely geared for people in their golden years and not so much for younger folks running on absolutely no sleep. Although it was hard for many of us to stay awake during this tour, we did all pretty much find the Palace of Parliament fascinating. The Palace of Parliament is the second largest building in the world next to the Pentagon. It was originally commissioned by the Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu in 1984, and he intended to use it as his personal palace. Unfortunately for Ceausescu, he never was able to fully enjoy the palace because he was overthrown in 1989 when the palace was only about 70% complete. Basically, the Romanians had had enough of Ceausescu. They stormed the Central Committee building where he was staying, but Ceausescu got away in a chopper. He actually didn't get very far though. He was quickly caught and then later was executed. The overthrow resulted in a military conflict, leaving Romania heavily damaged. And after the dust had settled, Romanians needed to decide what to do with the half-finished palace. See, people hated Ceausescu so much that they even debated tearing down the building. But ultimately, it was decided to complete the building because it was cheaper to do that than to tear the building down. The palace was finally completed in 1997. Now, when we started our tour, we were informed that cameras were not allowed in. However, we were allowed to bring cell phones in. As a result, the film quality isn't up to our normal standards, but hey, what are you gonna do? Taking a quick look at the Wikipedia page for the Palace of Parliament, you can quickly see that the stats are staggering. There's almost 4 million square feet that compose the building, 12 floors, and 1,100 rooms. The building to this day still doesn't even use the majority of the space. But what Wikipedia doesn't tell you is how many chandeliers there are in the building. I mean, there are chandeliers everywhere. This chandelier actually requires someone to get inside of the chandelier to change the bulb. It's crazy. On a tour, you only actually see 5% of the entire building. The best part of the entire palace is probably the view from the main palace balcony. After touring the palace, we headed back to our hotel and called it a day. The next day we headed out of Bucharest for some company visits. The most interesting company we visited was probably Halewood Vineyards. It was a small property, but we really enjoyed tasting wine straight from the barrel and having a nice meal. After our company visits, we headed back to Bucharest. Being that I had not yet received the chance to explore the city on my own, I decided to head out of the hotel and see what I could run into.
The interesting part of this trip is we went to Moldova before this, and now we're in Romania, and you can really see the contrast between the two countries. Moldova used to be part of Romania. People seem happy here. And in Moldova, it's not to say people didn't seem happy, but you could tell there was like this underlying struggle. And I'm not saying people don't struggle in other places in the world, but the comparison between the two, you could tell it's more challenging to live there.
It wasn't long before I stumbled across some high school kids that were biking around, so I started talking to them.
So I was just trying to get some time lapses of some of the monuments here. the ball looking thing with the spike through it is actually a potato. It represents the sacrifice of the Romanian people to, I guess, gain independence. But I noticed while I was doing that time lapse, there's a few guys doing some biking around it. They were mostly 16, 17 in high school, so I was asking them kind of, you know, what their life experiences and being in Bucharest were and whatnot. So it's interesting to see different generations and their perspective on things. Our bus driver, he's 41, so he's here when, I guess he lived under communism for 14 years. So he's like, every time we go into one of these businesses to tour, he's like, walks out being like, oh man, I'm so happy to hear this, like my country's doing so much better, like I'm so happy and all this other stuff. And talking to the 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, it just doesn't even cross their mind. So it's an interesting thing to think that, you know, in 100 years from now, 150 years from now, in Romania, there won't even probably be a thought of the past. You know, they'll remember it, they'll be in their history books, but which is a good thing if your country's going in the right direction. Not forget, but less emphasis is probably good. Anyways, I'm walking to get some dinner. Crowded in there to film, but they were cutting the pizza up and then weighing it and giving you a price based off that, which is, I got way more pizza than I meant to, but it was only $5 for all that pizza. Looks good. 4 big slices and a Coke, so that comes out to 24 lays, about $6. A little under. Pretty good. That's interesting. I was just filming, I didn't even know it was down there. It looked kind of sketchy, but I think it's a walkway underneath the road. And I was just kind of filming people going down into the little tunnel because I thought it looked cool. And all of a sudden, I see a huge group of guys go in, and then you hear them singing, I don't even know the name of that song, now that I think about it. By the way, I was just walking back. That's Vlad Tepes, who's Dracula, supposedly. It's just really been a great trip, and I feel like I've learned a lot. But I'm going to leave it at that for tonight. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment if you've been to Bucharest or Romania or Moldova or have any thoughts or comments or suggestions. And we'll see you guys next week in our next vlog. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.